Like any lazy teenage boy, I was super difficult to motivate to do household chores and projects around the yard. We had a little acreage, and Dad loved to putter around. We had an acre of garden and all sorts of crap for us to work on. There'd be nails to pull out of boards or weeding to do. Of course, I'd much rather grab a stalk of rhubarb and sit in the shade on a Saturday afternoon and ignore the job. But we had work to do. And of course, Dad would sometimes threaten me within an inch of my life and that sort of thing that parents do sometimes. But as often as not, his favorite tactic was to just do the job that he had asked me to do, which of course shamed me into participating or stepping in. Although as often as not, he would say, "Nope, I got it, forget it, you just go do what you want." And it was just so embarrassing and shameful. But my point is, he never asked me to do more than he was willing to do himself. And that's what he did. He led by example. What he did was more important than what he said. And I'm very grateful for that. My dad could not be bothered with verbal manipulation and double talk. He was a man who verbally shot straight from the hip. It sometimes got him into trouble. I remember one time when I was very young, 7 or 8, and we had a babysitter, and Mom and Dad had gone out, and they came home, and Dad had a black eye. So he'd obviously gotten into some sort of verbal tussle with someone, and it turned into something physical. And Dad could be guilty of saying it like it is, a little too rudely or crassly sometimes. But I've realized, especially in the last year, just how important that integrity of saying what you mean and meaning what you say in my dad's life has come to play in my own. I have observed in the last years that a good chunk of my closest friends are very much like my dad was. They're very black and white. They're not very good at pulling punches verbally. They tell me what they think. They're very honest. They sometimes forget to sugarcoat things. And sometimes these friends drive me crazy. And there's no give. Very, very stringent in their opinions, super opinionated. And I'm like, why am I such close friends with these people? And then I realize deep down what it really is about. And it's because they have integrity. I trust their word. Their word is their bond. And I have come to realize that, as infuriating as it is to have a friendship with someone like that, at times I'm better off in life for having my closest friends to be that way, rather than to tell me one thing or to tell me what they think I want to hear, but then feel something entirely different behind my back, or say something different behind my back. And amazingly, I get that from my father. I myself am not a lot like that, a little more so as I get older. But I'm a nurturer, I'm a lover, I'm not a fighter. But I kind of surround myself with fighters. And it's because they have integrity. And that is because of my dad. I am so thankful for the work ethic that I have, and that I have it because of my dad. To me, work ethic is you get an hour of pay and you give an actual hour of work. And work ethic is not what you make sure the boss sees you doing, but what you do because it's the right thing to do. And my dad repeatedly instilled in me, as I took on part-time jobs in high school and when I struck out on my own as a young adult, impress the boss by taking the initiative. Find jobs to do. Don't wait for the boss to say, oh, I need you to work. Let him just see you working when he comes by. And he or she could have something that they want you to do, and that's fine, but don't wait. And if you're not sure what to do, you go and ask, well, what can I do next? You can just wait until they're watching, or you can just be doing the job, and eventually they see you doing it. I've learned that this is great for job retention, it's great for promotion, great for raises, great for just feeling secure in your relationship with the boss, because she or he sees day to day that the hour that they're paying me is resulting in an hour of real work. And my dad did a great job of teaching me that. Dad grew up in a very poor home. He never went without the basics. My grandparents worked very hard to make sure that his needs were met, but there wasn't really anything extra. And when he wanted something more, he had to go out and get it for himself. Delivering papers, doing odd jobs for neighbors, part-time work, local restaurants, dishes, sweeping, whatever. If he wanted to get something for himself, he went out and earned it. And later on in life, when he was raising us, having his own family, Dad didn't let setbacks set him back. He endured. I remember when I was a young teenager, Dad had been laid off by Palm Dairies in Edmonton from his management position, and he needed to work, and he endured. He actually took a route as a milkman, got one of the company trucks and went out and delivered milk each morning. I mean, he was still seeing those people at Palm Dairies. He had taken a demotion and was around them every day, but it didn't matter to him because he had a family to provide for, and he needed to work. He needed to get the job done. And that spirit of tenacity, that enduring spirit has always impressed upon me the value of not giving up. Certainly, Dad passed that on to my sister and I. He wanted better for us than what he had had himself. Him and Mom worked very hard for that, but they didn't just hand it to us. They made sure that we earned our keep and that we learned the value of a dollar, the value of an hour's work, and the value of what we had worked so hard to gain for ourselves. And that endurance has served me really well over the years. Dad never asked other people to take responsibility for his failures. He took full ownership of his mistakes, of the bad days. I remember that very clearly. This one time when I was very young, we had this awesome VW Beetle. I loved that car. I would actually open up the trunk, which was in the front, and go inside it sometimes and just hang out and make a little fort and stuff. And I loved that car. Anyways, one day the car came in, being towed into the yard, covered in swamp garbage, like reeds and stuff. And it obviously had ended up in a nearby pond. And I didn't really get it, but later on, a few years later, I asked Dad about it, and he said, you know what, son, I'd had a little bit too much to drink that night, and that swamp is at a corner of the road, and I failed to turn quickly enough, and I ended up putting the car in the swamp, and that was that. I mean, we had to get rid of that Beetle, and that really impressed upon me how much I respected Dad for opening up about that and taking ownership of that mistake. You know, not just a mistake, but a moral failure in the moment to have been driving under the influence. On the flip side, Dad equally gloried in his victories. When something went well, when he was successful, when he had accomplished something really important, he took ownership of that as well. And it wasn't sort of I don't know, I didn't really see it as like a patting himself on the back sort of glory. He was just so excited that he had done it himself, without help, without someone else needing to rescue him. It was his own accomplishment. And yeah, over the years, I learned that Dad sometimes embellished the details a little bit. I guess that's just part of good storytelling. But ultimately, he was proud of what he was able to do on his own. And that independence of standing on your own 2 feet, in failures and in successes, in victories and in defeats, really impressed upon me how valuable it is to make a life for yourself. Not that you don't seek help when you need it, but as often as possible to be able to make accomplishments happen in your own strength and to take ownership of your own failures. When my dad was about 20 years old, he and my uncle, his little brother, Richard, packed their bags, got on a ship, and sailed to the South Pacific. For the next 3 years and change, they lived and worked in Australia, New Zealand, Fiji, and the Solomon Islands. Dad racked up an amazing wealth of experience living abroad before coming back home and eventually settling down, marrying my mother and having us kids. He told a few stories when I was growing up, although I was too self-absorbed to have real interest until I got older. Later in life, I asked more of him, and he happily opened up about his experiences. Dad was a passionate traveler, and when he raised his family and took care of my mom in her illness later in life, he didn't make the time for that and didn't have the money. But after Mom passed away, Dad started traveling again. He wintered in Costa Rica twice and spent 4 winters in the Philippines. And he did that until the last few months of his life, and was very excited about going back again before he passed away. I realize now too that world travel, getting out of your own backyard and seeing beyond your own culture, your own geography, it makes you a better person. It made Dad a better person. He was, I think, more tolerant of people because of his travel experience, more willing to try new things, and just a better guy for it. That inspired me. And, well, of course, anyone who knows me knows I've racked up my own experiences, and I hope to continue to do so in the future. Travel is an incredible experience and adds a body of knowledge and hopefully wisdom to a person's life that is, well, that just can't be replaced with anything else. And I'm so thankful for the passion of travel that my dad instilled in me from his own example in youth and in old age. I have watched a lot of parenting over the years, especially working with teenagers as a career for over 20 years. And I've learned it's hard to let go. I didn't raise my own family, so I don't pretend to appreciate that to that depth. But I've kind of learned, I get it. These little bundles that you raise from birth, and eventually they want to start doing their own thing, and it's difficult for parents to let go. My dad was amazing at letting go. I don't doubt that it stressed him out. I don't doubt that he stayed up late some nights along with Mom, worrying about the choices I was making as I got older. Yet it was more important to him that I start figuring things out for myself than the worry that he had and the stress. It was so clear to me, for both my sister and I, as we got into our later teens, how important it was for Dad to release us to make our own decisions. Of course, it was measured out piece by piece throughout those months and years, But from about 16 years of age on, Dad really started letting go. And at first I was like, whoa, freedom, this is so great. Well, I learned a few hard lessons because of that, and still had some discipline and some hard talks from him and Mom because of that. However, it was in those moments, in those failures, guided by my parents, that I realized my dad was giving me the opportunity to make my own way, to figure things out, both in failures and successes, so that I could be my own man. And I am incredibly thankful for that. My dad taught me that it's a parent's job to lay the foundation. When you're a baby, a toddler, a young child, an awkward teenager, to lay the foundation of those morals, those choices, critical thinking, doing what's right, hopefully avoiding what's wrong more often than not. But the day comes where it just has to start being your life and not the life that your parents have made for you. And Dad worked really hard at making sure that happened. When I was getting near the end of high school and graduation, I successfully applied for a job at the Banff Springs Hotel. I was so excited to leave my small town and strike out and go and live in the mountains and get those experiences. Dad made sure that my car was working well, and he gave me a little bit of money to get me through the first couple weeks while I got settled in. And he invited me to call anytime that I needed advice or help. But he actually rarely called first himself. And when I was younger, I thought, oh, my parents are just busy and they're not really ones to call. But I look back now and I realize that was my dad letting go. And I'm sure it was hard, but I'm thankful that he gave me that example in life, that I might do the same thing with the teenagers I work with, the young people I work with, to help people to see that striking out and finding your own way is eventually what everyone needs to do. And it's scary and it's stressful and there's some big mistakes along the way, but that's a part of the joy of living. And it was an incredible part of who Dad was. So this last one, it's so important for me to get it right. I'm going to read it word for word from my notes. Above all else, Dad showed me how safe it feels when your father's love is given equally to his children. No favorites, no special treatment for one over the other. Equal opportunity, equal access, equal care. My crystal clear gift in life is to nurture, to shepherd, to help, to care for the needs of others. I know this is who I am deep down inside. I'm adopted, yet God knew who I needed to raise me so that my gift, my passion for shepherding people would be molded and matured into a powerful tool to build people up and to bring glory to Jesus. That was my father. You know, he wasn't even a Christian. Yet Dad reflected Jesus every day I knew him in this way. My sister and I always received his love equally. No favorite, no special treatment for one of us, no exclusive focus on one to the exclusion of the other. Dad gave us equal care, equal access. Every time I felt safe with my dad, in the utter surety that he would always take care of me. He didn't always do it the way I wanted, but he was always fair to me. I have, in turn, taken that precious gift and applied it to my life's work as I have guided, nurtured, and shepherded groups of young people. I know without any doubt that making my flock feel safe by treating each one of them fairly makes me much better at what I do. This is the greatest legacy of my dad's investment in me. It was God's great gift to me to give me a father who brought out the very best in me by his consistent love for me. I love you, Dad.